More on the Chinese president's visit and U.S.-China relations. I'm joined now by Dali Yang, political science professor at the University of Chicago. He's also the founding director of the University Center in Beijing. Let me get your thoughts first on this state visit. What do you expect to come out of it?
Well, I think it's actually fairly broad-gauged, but most importantly, having President Xi in Washington, being welcomed with 21-gun salute, being respected as a foreign leader, that's actually important back in China. Because again, every predecessor of President Xi in recent memory has come to Washington, has been welcomed, and he wants to be seen as being on level playing field, level to level with the American president.
Earlier today, White House officials briefing reporters talked about what they hope to have on the agenda here in Washington, D.C. And the first thing that they're planning is a private dinner between these two leaders. They pointed out at Sunnylands how these two men bonded. And when there's no agenda where they can actually talk about what really motivates them, what they're concerned about, that they can really make a lot of headway. And it's interesting because we think about these two major powers, these two very powerful countries, but in the final analysis, it really comes down to relationships, doesn't it, between these two men?
Absolutely. In fact, in advance of the visit, there have been a number of deals on railways, on clean energy, and perhaps even on cybersecurity that have been reached. So there are going to be things that are announced, but more importantly also that the two leaders can get down. They already talk to each other from time to time. And this is actually in a striking contrast with Xi's predecessor. President Hu Jintao did not have the kind of freedom that President Xi has in terms of engaging with President Obama. And they have a certain rapport. And of course, he's very popular back in China. The capability to be able to do this one-on-ones in discussing some of the most fundamental issues that are yet unresolved is extremely important to the relations between the two countries.
He has this major policy address. We were watching a little bit of that. That's taking place in Seattle. Of course, we got the state dinner here in Washington, D.C. He speaks before the UN General Assembly in New York. We're back with live pictures right now of his address, his policy address in Seattle. Are you expecting different themes from the different cities? Are there different themes he's going to hit on as he moves across the country from west to east?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the most important aspect of this is he's only stopping in Washington, D.C. fairly briefly. There is, of course, the private event. There is also actually the formal sort of a welcome and so on. But in fact, it's actually bracketed, number one, by his visit to Seattle, his meetings with the business leaders, his outreach to the people of America from actually a town that's welcomed his predecessors in the past. And also it's a technology town. In many ways, again, it speaks to the connections. He just spoke about the 300 million middle-income earners in China. He's actually beckoning the Chinese consumer market to American businesses in that regard. And then he has to the UN. There, of course, he's standing. In fact, President Putin from Russia will be attending for the first time in many years. So he's going to be standing shoulder to shoulder with Putin, with President Obama, and so on. So in that sense, again, he's going to be giving his first major address to the General Assembly of the UN. And that, again, shows him as a global statesman. So in that sense, it also speaks to the delicate nature of the relations between Beijing and Washington, and the fact that he prefers to spend more time in Seattle and, of course, in New York rather than in Washington, D.C., where actually there seems to be a little more of a copying on the relations and complaints about Chinese behavior and so on.
All right, Dali Yang with his analysis from Chicago, Illinois. Thank you so much.